Would please make a motion.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
I second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation, which I'm going to ask Mr. Coachman to do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Coachman?
Gracious and eternal God and our Father, Lord God, we just like to thank you for the beauty of this day. I ask you, Heavenly Father, go along with us today as we go to take care of the business of your district. I ask you to watch over our children, oh Heavenly Father. Need a special prayer today, oh Heavenly Father. I ask you to protect us during the storm. Protect all the school districts, all the children, and all the families around the world. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for all the blessings that you've given us, and you're going to continue to do so. These are all the blessings I do pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I have got to tell y'all my little granddaughter's version of the Pledge of Allegiance. It was all right until it got to indivisible, and she said insurvivable and just a frog. And it's very hard for me to say the Pledge of Allegiance and not think about that. I'm so glad you've added the Pledge of Allegiance. We don't get to say it enough. All right. Now, we need a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters, employment matters, receipt of legal advice, actually it's just legal information in this circumstance, and other matters covered by attorney-client privilege. That really doesn't apply tonight since the attorneys are not here. Would someone please make a motion?
Madam Chairman, I so move.
Okay. Is there a second? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. Oh, it's unanimous. I have to wait till the hands come up, you know. I can't vote for y'all. Thank you. And so we are in executive session.
We're riding by the school, so we turned that in Friday. So hopefully we're going to have a better this week now.
Motion to go back into open session, please.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. And the motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. There was no action taken, no decision was made. We need to vote on 2 elections, am I correct? 4 elections, sorry. Okay, would someone make a motion, please?
Madam Chairman, I move to accept the recommendations of the administration on 4 elections.
I second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion's carried unanimously. Thank you.
If you would, Madam Chair, with one of the elections, it is an administrator who will be joining us at,
that's right.
at Blenheim
Yeah,
Elementary
and
Middle School, Mr. Oscar Gregg. I think it's in the audience. If you would, please
Hello.
stand so that we can welcome you appropriately from Marlboro County Schools.
We're glad you're joining us.
Certainly wearing the right colors.
That's right.
Thank you. Good evening to everybody,
Good evening.
to the superintendent, to Chair Lady Parsons, to everybody. I'm Oscar Gregg III. I am excited to be coming on board as assistant principal at Blenheim Elementary Middle School and looking forward to doing great things to support student achievement there in Blenheim.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
We need approval of minutes for August the 6th, 2018, the regular meeting.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the August 6th regular meeting and the August 20th special call meeting.
Okay, fine. Does anybody
Second.
have any problem with the other one? Okay, all right. We'll do it all at one time. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Are you're voting with us? Okay, all right. And so the
Point of
motion's-
information, Madam Chairman, we
Beg your
did
pardon?
not deal with the issue of resignations, should we?
Was there?
Did you have a
resignation? Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot that.
I'm just, Mr. Woods-
I'm used to having Dr. Cobb up there. So the minutes are approved, and would someone please make a motion for the resignations?
Madam Chairman, I move we accept the administration's recommendation regarding a single resignation, if that's
Did you say
correct.
there were more resignations?
3.
Yeah,
Three resignations.
Yeah. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion's carried unanimously. And points of celebration, Dr. McCord.
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. Margaret Quick if she's here to come up and share some exciting news. As she approaches, I also would like to take a moment to acknowledge point of celebration. I made mention early on when I was hired here for Marlboro County. One of my goals is to establish ecumenical partnerships. I'm excited to inform the public that on September 26th at 11 a.m. at the Chamber Council room, we will have a luncheon for all of our ecumenical partners, and information will be sent out to each of the area churches, local clergy member, as well as you as the board. And so we'd like for you to be in attendance and mark that date. And again, I'll accompany that with a letter.
Thursday what?
No, that should be Wednesday. September 26, 2008, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Chamber of Commerce. It's an open space. I don't know what the proper name for it is, but I do know where it is. It's 122 Market Street. East Market Street? East. Okay, right across the voter registration. So I am excited to announce that. I count that as a point of celebration. We just finalized that today.
All right. And Ms. Quick.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. McCord. It brings me great pleasure to announce that on August 23rd, the Marlboro County School District was awarded a sub-grant through the South Carolina State Department of Education entitled the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program provides all children participating with a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables throughout the school day. It is an effective and creative way to introduce fruits and vegetables as a healthy snack option. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program also encourages schools to develop partnerships at the local and state level for support in implementing and operating the program. The goal of the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program is to create a healthier school environment by providing healthier food choices, expand the variety of fruit and vegetables that children are introduced to, increase children's fresh fruit and vegetable consumption. This program is seen as an important catalyst for the change in efforts to combat childhood obesity, helping children to learn more about fresh fruits and healthy eating. The schools that will be participating in this sub-grant are Bennettsville Primary School, Bennettsville Intermediate School, Blenheim Elementary Middle School, Wallace Elementary Middle School, and Clio Elementary Middle School. The district will ensure that students who receive the fresh fruit, students that receive the fresh fruits and vegetables will be exposed to a minimum of twice a week. And also we will offer complimentary nutrition education to parents and the students through the Title I program. Lastly, I would like to invite everyone to the Marlboro County School District's annual Parents' Day, which will be held on September 22nd, 2018 at Marlboro County High School from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Parents' Day will give the community an opportunity to meet and talk with our new superintendent, Dr. Gregory McCord. In addition, parents will be able to participate and receive information from various vendors and presenters. Some of the vendors, presenters, and sponsors for the sessions are Kahona Ice of Marlboro County, Northeastern Technical College, FATS, CARE South Carolina, Well Care, Man to Man Ministries, UReach LLC. We will be presenting the Read to Succeed Act to all parents, cyberbullying, dropout prevention, parent engagement, social media etiquette, 101 Chromebooks for parents, how to become an MCSD parent volunteer, and much more. You all, we encourage you to participate on that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quick. And do we need to do anything with Parents' Day now that she's mentioned it?
Just encourage parents to come out and be present.
Okay.
And bring.
That's a Saturday, right?
That is a Saturday, September 22nd. And bring your young people.
Ms. Robinson, do we have any folks that want to speak? Okay. All right, so we'll skip that. And board items for discussion, the bond referendum update by Dr. McCord.
I just had, I'll go up here.
That's fine,
because
whichever.
I don't want to turn
Whichever.
around and look like I have my back to everyone.
It's no problem.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll ask Mr. Toole if he would. Face the family study.
Am I blocking anybody from seeing?
I may be.
Because I can move.
Am I blocking
Okay.
anyone?
All right.
Okay. You say I am? One of the things I always try to make sure that I am is a teacher at heart. And so that in mind, I realize and recognize that everyone learns and hears in different ways. So teaching modality is something that we all have to be cognizant of. I embarked upon an endeavor when we put the question on the board, and the board voted unanimously to approve the $10 million question for November 6, 2018, to find a way to educate the public on exactly what it is that we're going to do with the money if it is approved, how we're going to use the money, and a timeline for when the money will be spent. In 2016 and 17, before my time, the district began having conversations about the deteriorating building conditions at one of our local schools. There were several meetings held to discuss what could be done to either repair, replace, or renovate the existing structures of the building. For various reasons, those talks were all met with funding issues. The board began conversations about possibly having a question presented to the public for a bond referendum in November, but those talks were stalled. Sometime this recent summer, the board again was faced with having the question brought before them, and again, as I mentioned earlier, unanimously they approved the question, and now it will be on the ballot. I want to make sure, again, that as we continue to grow Marlboro County and provide the best possible facilities for our students, that we are good stewards of the taxpayers' money if we are granted this opportunity. This information, can you make that bigger on the screen, Jimmy? Hit that button. No, not that part. Okay, not. Just a little box, is that? That's as big as it's going to get. This presentation will be online after tonight, but what I wanted to do, if you'll just scroll down for me, Jimmy, visual aids definitely help when you're trying to, and I apologize, I'm not quite sure why we can't. Can you stretch the screen out?
I'll have to rotate it back and forth for you read it.
Okay. And I won't read it all, but basically, and I'll just talk from this. This is going to be online. It will give you an update of our existing buildings as they currently are, as well as what our building conditions, you can just keep scrolling, what our building conditions look like. I'm not quite sure if many of you or any of you have been inside of a school building since we were in school. So I want you to have an idea of what our students are having to endure each day as they come into our schools. BIS, I mentioned earlier, there were concerns that were brought to the board from the public a couple of years ago as it related to specific issues. We want to address those issues. First and foremost, we want to make sure that all of our campuses are safe and secure. I don't think there's ever a thing such as we have too much safety and too much security. And knowing and recognizing that, and I'm just going to use this area right here. You can stop right there. This is BIS, I believe. Many school districts across the country have gone to storefront properties, which means when a person comes to the building, they have to be buzzed into the building. And when they get into the building, they're then contained in a separate area so that they can be visibly seen to ensure safety. And then they're buzzed into the main campus, as opposed to some of our buildings now, once they enter the front door, our safety has been breached, and now we could possibly have someone on our campus that we wouldn't otherwise have on campus. This safety feature allows us to contain, again, an individual or individuals in an area that we can then call and notify authorities, call and notify administration, but definitely ensure the safety of our students. All district personnel, and I normally have my ID badge on, I took it off because it's a board meeting, so forgive me, but all district personnel will have ID card swipers that will allow them access to the building. And it's also going to be something that will help us in our efforts to make sure we know who's in the building at any particular time. Can you scroll down? Before I move on to the restrooms, we also, some of you know this, we don't have adequate visibility on our campus. And today's time, knowing who's on your campus at all times is going to be paramount to safety. So the installation of digital recording cameras at each of our schools to allow 100% visibility is going to help us in our efforts to ensure we know who's on campus at all times. Some of you may have this service at your home where you can take your cell phone and you can look now and see who's at your house, or if someone has been to your home. We want to be able to have that capabilities here in our schools. And by the way, that is something that we need to have in our schools. And so some of the money will go towards that. Just pointing out the restrooms, is this BIS still? And again, I'll pass one of these around, and Wes, you go ahead and pass yours around, so that you can see for yourself what our students are having to face each day when they're in school. I don't think any of you would feel comfortable knowing that our students, your child, is having to go and use a facility that is kept in this manner. Now, a lot of it is because of age. We have several buildings that are older than me, which means they're old. We are fortunate that we have two very nice building structures in Wallace and Blenheim, but Clio is not far from it. But our other buildings need some attention and care. And again, I don't want you to take my word for it. That's why I have the pictures, and we encourage you to come out and visit our schools so that you'll know what we have going on in our schools. You scroll through. At BIS, one of the options that we're going to present to the board, and of course they can vote it up or down, I'd like to have a state-of-the-art auditorium. The auditorium at BIS is a very nice auditorium. It's one that is salvageable, but is it operational for today's time? It's not. We could possibly have board meetings there. We could have community events, of course, school events, but modernize this auditorium so that it is a place or a feature in this community that everyone can be proud of is one of the goals and objectives, along with the new construction that will take place at the school, which will be a cafeteria, upgrades and improvements to the gymnasium, and possibly additional classrooms. And again, that's something that the board will decide on. The demolition, where the X's are, the demolitions of 3 structures, and the focus then on the yellow areas would be my recommendation. This is what a new cafeteria might look like at BIS. You keep going. And so, yeah. No, you keep going. So that I won't have to read through all of it because it's 23 pages. We did this for each building. When I say we had a team come in and tour each building to discuss the major issues, those areas of concerns that need to be addressed, and then we put it in writing so that you can take a look and see what we have. I'm just going to scroll down to the back page, go all the way through to the end. Because again, this is viewable online after tonight. But let's get to the part that most people want to know. How much will all of this cost? Now, we're asking the public to go out and vote. I can't tell you to vote yes or no, but we are encouraging you to vote so that you can help us understand the direction in which we will go. At the end of the presentation, you will see 3 options, options A, B, and C. Scroll all the way down, Jimmy. Right there. The ask is for $10 million. Do you see $10 million at the bottom line?
Nope.
No. We cannot adequately fund all of the projects that we have in store without some financial oversight that allows us to tighten our belts here in the district, which we're prepared to do, and we've already taken steps to do so. We also will be seeking grant opportunities from the state. I think one may be coming down the pipe soon that can allow us to address concerns as it relates to safety issues. And then we have the capacity to borrow, but so much each year. Now I ask that you scroll back for a moment. That's the cost. Oh, well, go the other way. I'm sorry. The other way, Jimmy.
Toward the end of it?
Yes, sir. That's the cost, but most importantly, this is the timeline. If we know that if we get approval and we know that we have the money, I don't want a public that does not know when projects are expected to begin or end. And so what I did was put together a timeline for when projects would begin. First and foremost, we would start with the safety issues. I want all schools to be safe at all times for all kids and all staff. And so we will begin in 2018, 2019, this school year, addressing safety issues. We have safety issues and concerns that I'll talk about later for this particular campus, Marlboro County High School, that have to be addressed right now. 2019, 2020, again, just letting you know the projects that we will begin to go all the way up to 2023. So this is not something that will be done. If we do get a yes vote in November, we won't complete these projects by next year this time. But it's important that you know along the way what we plan on doing with the money so that you can have an idea of how it's being spent. And I'll answer any questions that you have from the board before and as you pull up the FAQ.
Let's start over here, Mr. Coachman. Do you have a question?
No, I'll go around. I'll have some in a minute.
All right, Mr.
I don't
Branch,
have anything right now.
Mr. Driggers.
On your printout here, the different things you have, the option A, B, and C. And what we're talking about there basically is the changes between 4, 6, or no classrooms at Bennettsville Intermediate School. Am I correct on that? That's the only changes that
You are correct.
affecting those prices, correct?
You are correct. As you look at the total dollar amount that will be needed to fund all of the projects, and by the way, these cost estimates were based with a 5% increase. We want it top dollar in the presentation, but of course, as we find ways to offer savings, then we will. But the only variance is whether or not we add 6 classrooms to BIS, 4 classrooms to BIS, or no classrooms, and we go with, again, the remodernization of the auditorium to bring it up to standards 2019, because 2018 is almost over, as well as the upgrades and additions to the gymnasium and the building construction and completion of a new cafeteria.
All of that is still included, just the classrooms, the only thing that changes.
Correct.
This number.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's why I was thinking it was.
All right, Ms. Fleming. Mr. Norton.
I just wonder if this is a typo.
Page 16.
Page 23,
Okay.
the playground upgrade. Who is MCEF?
MC, that's probably a typo. That should be McCall. Should be McCall Elementary Middle. That's a typo. But again, I think it's important to note that we do want safe playground equipment at our schools. This summer, we removed playground equipment at a couple of schools because of the age. The playground equipment that was present was that old wrought iron type swing set, seesaw set, which not only can hurt and harm kids, but also put us in a situation where we're going to be faced with potential liability. And so we removed it. Now we need to start thinking about replacing it.
Mr. Woods.
Yes. Do we have any firm bids for construction yet? Because these numbers came from Thompson.
No, the numbers came from me sitting down with evaluators that are knowledgeable for what, and they are, these individuals are from Thompson Turner, but the numbers came from experts in the field for what it would cost to complete those projects. But to answer the question directly, no. No bids have been approved because no bids have been offered, to my knowledge.
Okay, one more thing. So,
All right.
I see the security cameras for Frontage, for Clio, and more there's playground equipment for Clio?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And one of the things I mentioned a moment ago with our existing structures, Clio is not one that's in severe need. It's a fairly new building, and I say new in terms of school age. I believe the building is about 9 years old, and I think some of those numbers are wrong because they use old information that was unbeknownst to me. I was not aware, admittedly, I was not aware that Clio burned a few years ago. I think I made a statement recently that it's been 50 years since the school has completely burned to the ground, and someone said, no, that's not true. That happened here, and so Clio is not as in bad shape as others.
Yeah, I understand that, but one of the reasons I asked about Clio is because the fact, just like they expecting the storm now, and Clio sit on Highway number 9, what we have to do to make sure that that could be a shelter also if something like this ever happen again?
The first thing I would think we would need to do is have a conversation with Red Cross.
Right. That's what I'm saying, because it's right sit there on number 9.
And another, I can tell you just from my experience, I haven't spoken to anyone from Red Cross here, a building has to be able to hold at least 2,000.
Okay.
Ms. O'Nation?
Yes. Our projection here, first let me ask this question. How many 5th graders would we possibly project to be at BIS?
And that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked, because again, that number depends, should have some bearing on what you decide to do.
Exactly.
Currently, I believe the 5th grade enrollment for BIS is about 160.
We're closer to 130 now.
130? Okay, about 130. The 5th graders at BIS are currently housed at Clio Elementary.
How many?
130? 130.
130. All right. We initially started on this walk because we were going to build for our 5th grade children to come back to BIS. And I'm not certain that 4 or 6 new classrooms would be enough. I'm just bringing that to the board's attention here. Some of our original plans that we had looked at had room for special education, some other things. So we have had some proposed plans, and I am not certain that this number is all that we need. In fact, I don't think that it is, if we're not going to continue to displace our children. So I just want to bring that to the board's attention.
And again, if I may, I think this warrants a larger conversation.
Right.
And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Looking at the current numbers that we have, the enrollment based on the 135-day from last year and the 10-day for this year is slightly up 3.2%, but it is down in those areas that would need to be addressed with BIS. For an example, if we remove 130 students and place them back at BIS, that means we would take them out of Clio, which means Clio would have a building that's suitable for 400 that has about 136, 137 in the building. And so when we have these conversations, then we have to stop and pause and look at what is it actually costing us to operate a building. Again, if we're going to look at how we can be effective, we have to maximize every opportunity we can to bring students together in safe, secure facilities. But also, we have to consider where we would like to make a trimming. So 137 students at Clio, to me, would not be my recommendation for a building that's costing us how much per year? $1.3 million a year for less than 140 students. With the addition of the 5th grade students, we're somewhere close to 300 for the building. Now at BIS, with 3rd and 4th grade alone, we have, 370, 380 students, which is consistent with what we have at Clio. So again, there's some other conversations that we need to have as it relates to how we plan on moving forward before we move forward with what you
And I appreciate that comment very, very much, but I also have parents who don't want their children displaced if we can help it. So we had made a promise to the public that we were going to bring the 5th grade children back, and I'm sure we can find plenty of reasons to use Clio if we think about that. But I just want to put that in the mix, that we started on this journey to bring our 5th graders back.
And again, I was not here. I can tell you that any decision that I hope we make is going to be based on data.
Sure.
And how we again can best serve our community with what we have. Our district is not going to grow unless we have a new Volvo plant decide to take place here in town. The industry is not dictating that we're going to see any imminent growth in the near future. I'd like to see some revitalization of downtown, which would bring hopefully increased families. But until that time comes, we're basically on the declining end. As our student enrollment declines, so will our funding from the state. And so again, there's some larger questions that have to be asked and answered before we continue with that.
Before I start back around and come to the people that declined to speak.
I have another question, by the way.
Okay, I'll come back around. Y'all need to take note on page 16. There's a discrepancy on the upper right-hand picture between the picture and the wording.
Okay.
It's a picture of a boys' bathroom and it says girls' group restroom.
Okay.
So that needs to be changed before you put it on the website. All right, let's go back around, Mr. Coachman.
Yes. I know you wasn't here, Dr. McCoy, but there was some answers that we had for that. But we had support. We voted down like that will help out, that we can bring the kids back to BIS, those 5th graders, by moving the kids to the School of Discovery and then blend them out to Clio School or something. That may be something you can look at and maybe we can revisit. That way we can basically shut that School of Discovery down and save a lot of money from that building and put them in an adequate building. So those are some of the things that we discussed, and the kids will be able to come back to Bennettsville.
I've looked at some of those options, and I'm glad you brought that up. Again, I think that's a good discussion that we do need to have, because School of Discovery costs us just under $1 million to operate each year. Again, we have much to discuss.
Mr. Branch?
I'm not finished yet.
Mr. Coachman?
And the other thing, I think the 6th classroom will be adequate. And Mr. Woods asked a question about bidding. There was a bidding process, and that happened before you came here. And I think the bid had been won by someone, but it was never publicly made that his firm had won. And I don't think I don't want us to get in trouble by rebidding a job that may cause us to have some future problems if the bid has already been done and won by someone. I wasn't on the committee but I think some of the other board members were on the committee. Mr. Woods, were you on that committee?
Yeah, I was on that committee.
If it was not awarded, then we can always rebid, if I'm correct. Was there a bid announcement? Was there an award?
No.
No, it wasn't. But
There was a bid myself.
It was a process that was going on when we first discussed the BIS. Me and Ms. Barbara Nazier and Mr. Branch was on that committee, along with Ms. Janice Bright. That people came to do a presentation. They gave the presentation and the scores was graded, and it's dropped off since then. Because the score came back with another firm score, but there was no more discussion came upon it.
Mr. Branch?
And I don't have that information, but I can look into it definitely.
Yeah.
I do not think that it is binding unless it is actually awarded, but I will check.
Make sure it's not binding.
I will check and I'll get back to you, because I need to look and see what the RFP was. I don't know. I'll check.
Mr. Branch?
Okay.
As it relates to the addition at Bennettsville Intermediate School, I would be curious to find out how our students did their first full year in Clio. Were there increased scores because of being in a different, newer school? And I'd even like the possibility of maybe having a parent forum in Clio, especially for the 5th graders, to see how parents are feeling about their children going there.
And I think Mr. Branch, Tonight, we do have the release of the SV rating, SV pass scores. Dr. Harris will be up later to talk about that. And Dr. Harris, if you don't mind, just specifically addressing the scores of 5th grade students at Clive
Versus the prior year.
Is he going to give them now or later? Are you just asking
No,
for that?
that's in his presentation later.
Mr. Driggers?
Well, kind of along the same line as Mr. Coachman. I was noticing here at Bennisville Primary, it has a capacity of 700 children, and we have enrollment of 433. So we're only operating a little better than half, maybe 60–65% on Bennisville Primary. So I'm kind of along the same lines as Mr. Coachman. I really think we need to visit reconfiguration. So, you know, 3rd grade could be added to this school. And then you got 4th and 5th at BIS. There's different things. So I guess what I'm trying to say is what you said a few minutes ago. We need to sit down and study some reconfiguration of our schools before we move forward, making any bids or placing any bids, and let's look at what we can do with it from there.
Correct.
That's all I need.
Ms. Fleming?
That's what I was going to say. It left me because we're talking about reconfiguration, and that was presented to us, and that's all we talked about last year. The whole year we fought about reconfiguration. Now, there's a lot of with the 5th graders at Clio and the space we just haven't done our due diligence as a board. We haven't looked at the numbers. We see that our numbers are declining all over Marlboro County, and we continue to operate these schools at such a high expense that we're just not good caretakers of the taxpayers' money. Now, I understand the parents are concerned they don't want their children to go there, but I can guarantee you some of those pictures that is in this brochure, they've probably never seen them. They have no idea what their children are enduring. I passed BIS the other day, and it was probably close to 98 degrees. And can you imagine in a building like that smelling tar all day? This is what we're trying to keep, to protect our children from, plus the other issues in that school. But we talked about, now we're talking about reconfigurations again. I don't know where we're going with it. I really don't. I just don't know, because we talked about it for a year and a half. And now board members are flip-flopping, and we just need to just be about the business of doing what's best for children with the limited money that we have. And we haven't done that. We haven't done, Clio has the capacity to house that many students. Why pay $1 million+ for 130 students and you can have 150? People, we go to church all over the county. Everybody from Clio comes to Walmart to shop. What's the problem with your children going there? This board needs to make some hard decisions. We just got to make some hard decisions that we just got to make hard decisions. No, ma'am, I'm sorry your child has to go to Clio. No, sir, your child has to go to Clio. We can't afford this. And we're asking for a referendum, asking for the public to support this, and I hope that you will, and I implore that you do. But let's make sound decisions, not emotional decisions, not what we think the parents need to hear, to please them because we're going to do this so your children, we can't afford that. We can't do it.
Mr. Norton?
I'm just finding it interesting, especially some of the enrollment numbers are very, seems to be some questions
The enrollment numbers are based on the 135 day count from last year.
Yeah. Okay.
So those numbers are actually what's reported on the state website.
Okay. So these were actually 2017-18 school year. Is that what you're saying?
2017-18, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. I just,
Now that's without removing the 5th grade students from BIS and adding them to Clio.
I wonder, Wallace is way down, and I thought they were up.
No, sir. And I actually have the 10-day numbers added out I'll share with you, and it should be in your packet as well.
Mr. Woods, do you and Ms. O'Nation mind if we move on? We've got a long agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, next is discussion of
Well,
boys
hold on, I do want to go over this, and I agree with you. We have some things that we do want to discuss, but frequently asked questions will also be placed on the website. And these are just 10 questions that are commonly asked as it relates to bond referendum, the passage of bond referendum, and what's expected of the public. So you more than likely will have questions, or you will have some that will be with or near you that will have questions. I wanted to be sure that we put some questions on our website that are common questions and provide you with accurate information, so again, you can be informed. Okay?
Move on. You good? Okay. The next is a discussion of Boys and Girls Club. Dr. McCord.
No, that's
Ms. O'Nation. Okay.
Well, we've got a heavy agenda tonight, but I want to bring it up.
Okay.
I've made contact with the Boys and Girls Clubs in Florence, who is the umbrella for the PD area. And since we're discussing BIS, the reason I'm bringing it up is we have several portions of that school that's not being used at all, even now. And the possibility of using it as a site for that would make it feasible that we could do that in the interim while we're trying to decide what we're going to do with that building. The proposed Bennettsville Boys and Girls Club, we formed a steering committee, and the head folks from Florence are willing to come, but they were scheduled Wednesday night, and that might have to change because of the storm. So I'm just bringing this to the board's attention.
What's the location?
It would be Bennettsville Intermediate School. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not speaking loud enough.
And the time?
Well, this is going to take a while to form it. You have to do marketing, you have to do all of these things. But many different areas do utilize schools. And when I spoke to Dr. McCord about it, which I have done, he said that we can do anything we want to do. So I don't mean that this is something the school would undertake. This is a private community effort. The only thing I'm mentioning to you is the possible use of BIS to serve. On the summers, they do a whole day program. In the afternoons, they do all afternoon. And it would be primarily for 6-year-olds through middle school age. Okay, now this would be a proposal we would bring to you when we get further down the road, but Boys and Girls Clubs have liability insurance, they have all of those issues. And I'm looking at the building portion that we're not using at all, that hasn't been torn down yet. So this is just something I'm bringing to the board's attention so that you can be aware of it. Okay? Thank you.
Marlboro County High School update. I don't know who's put these on here. So you speak up. Is it you?
I can do the
okay.
Update. Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, I just want to know where that come from. That's first we heard of Boys and Girls Club and not McCall.
Well, that's why she's bringing it.
That's why I'm bringing it to you.
That's not the question that I'm asking. I mean,
this came from community members who are interested in forming a Boys and Girls Club. They contacted me and asked if we would form a steering committee, which would be made up of about 10 or 12 members of the community, and I'm extending an invitation to members in the audience tonight who might like to participate in that. So this is early days yet. This is coming as a reason to do something for our children. So, and I'm just bringing it to your attention. That's all I'm doing. We may not need BIS. You may not want to give it to us, but it's certainly an option.
Do you have any material?
Yes, I do. I certainly do. This is, I'm bringing it to you. I have just been involved with it for about the last 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. So I contacted Florence to get the information, and I'm bringing it to your attention. There are about 10 steps to form a Boys and Girls Club, and that's the information we have. And the first of that is to do a needs assessment to see whether or not it's needed. And that would be one of the things that we would do. Okay?
All right. Next is Marlboro County High School update.
Yes, ma'am. If you recall, back on August 17th, we were met with the State Fire Marshal at Marlboro County High School to discuss concerns and or complaints as it relates to safety and life safety issues. We received our report that showed the high school to be in violation of 43 codes as it relates to life and health safety. We immediately put a plan in place when we received the initial visit from the State Fire Marshal. We met with the State Fire Marshal and OSF, Office of School and Facilities, Mr. Lisa Clark, on August 20th and spent about 4.5 hours going through Marlboro County High School to address safety concerns. I came to the board on that evening. I believe we had a special call board meeting for another matter, and expressed to you that we were being placed on a fire watch list, which meant that we were to have someone monitoring the campus 24/7, 7 days a week, of course, 24 hours a day. Two people at our expense. In working with the local fire chief, we were able to be creative and have coverage. But also that night, the board approved for an emergency no bid process to see if we could get an emergency generator up and running, as well as purchase a new generator, which takes anywhere between 2 to 3 months before installation. It also requires that an architectural design team be present to properly ensure that the installation of the generator takes place. So again, we were able to move quickly and get a design team in place with Jumper Carter Cease. I believe you're familiar with their work. They did work on Wallace. They came immediately. We secured an emergency generator, and we have a generator on order. The fire panel issues that we were having were reviewed and replaced as best possible by JCI and Simplex, so that we could meet the basic requirement to be taken off of the fire watch list by the State Fire Marshal. So I'm happy to report that we are moving forward in the direction of, we are off the fire watch list. Our local maintenance crew has done a lot to take action on those items in the hallways, as well as the roofing and egress, exits and entries in the event of emergency situations. So we are moving forward in a positive direction. We're off the fire watch list. Initially, they were citing the school as one that should not be in operation, and were threatening to close us down. So we got past that with the help of quick action, quick thinking from the board, as well as from those around the state that came to our assistance. I also would like to mention that previously the high school had not been used as a shelter by Red Cross. Timely enough, we are up and running in the appropriate time frame to have Red Cross again at the high school as a shelter. This week. Blenheim, Wallace were going to be the shelters. We are faced with an emergency situation now in Marlboro County, so it's important that the public knows that those two sites will be designated shelter in place, but also Marlboro County High School is now back up in operation because we have the emergency generator and the fire panels
All three of those sites will be used for emergency.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it? Yeah. All right, next is funding for security. Dr. McCord.
That's actually going to come up later. That was supposed to be removed. It's going to come up in fiscal responsibility.
Okay. All right. Violence and substance abuse policy.
That was asked to be placed on the agenda by Ms. Bright. She is not here. I think she sent an email.
Okay. Delay. Okay. So are you going to put that down for the next?
Yes, ma'am.
Next meeting. All right. Update on culinary arts program, Dr. McCord.
I'm going to ask the principal of the high school, Mr. Durham Farr, to come up and give us an update. I believe you asked for that information?
I did.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson and board members and Dr. McCord. Marlboro County High School recommendation for the culinary art program. If the culinary arts students are challenged to compete with programs throughout the region, they must have the opportunity to be trained in a facility that will get a chance to train and develop skills as the other students who have exposure to commercial grade equipment. What we presently have is not that. Marlboro County High School is recommending the following. 1-year plan. As we move forward, it will be necessary to complete the following tasks in order to make the present culinary lab a simulation of commercial kitchen. Add the electrical outlet to assess electrical appliance and equipment to be utilized in the designated workstation. 2, install a hand sink to allow students a place to wash hands before moving into a workstation. 3, upgrade electrical range with updated ones. 4, install dishwasher and purchase a new one to upgrade existing ones. Next, remove the commercial equipment already purchased and not installed to a secure location. Upgrade washer and dryer and work area of culinary lab. Upgrade lighting in the culinary arts, in the culinary lab also. And a 3-year plan that we are recommending for the culinary art facility. We would like to construct a commercial kitchen or add additional space to existing lab that would meet the requirement of OSHA, the National Restaurant Association, and will align with South Carolina State Department of Education CATE standards and the Office of School Facility. Our goal at Marlboro County High School is to offer students at Marlboro County High School who are enrolled in the culinary arts program the quality of education that will afford them the opportunity for skill development and laboratory practice in a commercial laboratory setting.
Mr. Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you have?
We have a facility that we can get by with the minimum basic.
What does it have in it?
Have stove. It have the basic lab facility. We cannot do open top frying.
Because of the hood.
Yes.
Not having a hood.
Not having a hood.
Yeah, absence of a hood, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Also, we have old dishwasher, also old wash and dry, but we need to upgrade all of the facility because, one, we want our students to be able to compete regionally, state, and nationally.
What will it cost to do this?
I can't speak on the cost because I haven't looked into it, ma'am.
Maybe next month, could you bring the cost?
I will look into it, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have you considered, and I'll ask you this as well, working with the Northeastern Tech School, that they may be farther along than we are in having a real culinary arts facility? Is it possible to work with them to provide the students that we have now? Because in 3 years, the people that are here now will be gone.
I'll answer that question. Okay. We are definitely amenable to having conversations with any group or organization that will allow us to provide our students with the best as it relates to equipment and services. I do know that the high school principal, Mr. Farr, as well as his guidance staff, have been in direct conversation with President Wagner, as well as Dr. Bunch, about collaborations that could occur. I don't know, however, if we're at a point where the Northeast Technical College is committed to allowing our students to use their facilities with their cost. So we'll get the cost estimates that we need to have 21st century learning opportunities for our students, but we'll continue conversations with Northeastern Tech as well.
My concern was, from things I had heard from previous instructors in that, was that basically you didn't have a culinary arts thing. It's more like what they had in home ec when many of us were in school. A stove and a sink and a little fan up above, and it's different today.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'd like, if we don't find out the price and don't find out what's involved, it won't happen.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's why I'm asking you to get the price. Either we need to do it or not do it, but if we're piddling at it, maybe there's another way to go with the Northeastern Tech. Thank you very much
That's
for
fine.
bringing the information. Thank you. Next is Care South Memorandum of Agreement information.
Care South is a healthcare provider that offers services throughout the district and the county for those in need. Pediatric mobile services, health and wellness assessments, as well as early detection for certain types of infections and diseases. They are wanting to collaborate with the school district to be able to provide services to our students at no cost, provided the students and families are Medicaid recipients or have personal insurance documentation for payment. It's at no cost to the school district. That's the first thing that I want to mention. But then also to know that services can be offered to our students that will help them maintain healthy lifestyles. I think it's important that we offer opportunities if and when they are available for our students. I can't make that decision on my own, I can make a decision that I think is good, but I need for the board to approve for me to have a conversation with Care South and have a MOA created that will specify what the requirements will be for the district as well as what it will be for the services that they provide. Now, this does not include the dental services. I recently found out that we have an MOA with a particular company as it relates to dental services. I was not aware of that when the conversation began. I can tell you I'm always going to advocate for students and families to receive health care services because we all know that we can't learn if there's an ailment. If our students are not well, they're not going to focus on education, instruction, or anything other than getting well. We also know that we have a healthcare crisis issue in terms of how families are able to afford health care. And so if we can bring the services in collaboration with the school district to our students and our families at no cost, again, to the district, then I definitely think it's something that we should look into.
There's another element that needs to be considered there. There are many families that can't afford to take off time from work during normal operational hours for a medical facility to then go get the children, take them out of school. There's the travel time away, travel time back, and it uses up a day of income producing for people who may have all of us have trouble earning a suitable income. I don't know anyone that doesn't want more income. Do you? I don't know anyone. So when these people bring it to the schools, that eliminates the parents having to transport the children away from school, and it lessens the time the child's out of class. So it seems to me to be a win-win-win.
Well, Madam Chairman,
yes,
you want ready to make a motion here that?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward, authorize Dr. McCord to move forward with Care South for the services, free service for our students and our families.
In the preparation of a memorandum of agreement.
Yeah.
And I'll second that.
All in favor? Is there any discussion? If not, we'll move on. All in favor, raise your right hand. Good deal. It's passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, board work session dates.
I ask this item be placed on the agenda. If some of you look at your clocks, it's 7:15, and past two board meetings, we've been able to get in and out of here in under an hour. As you can probably tell, we have a lot to discuss tonight, but we also have much more to discuss as we move forward. I don't believe that it's going to be in the best interest of time that we try to rush through certain topics of conversation. And so I'm going to, if I can remind you also, this was one of my items in my 90-day plan, I'm going to ask that we look at quarterly work sessions, which would allow the board to have an all-day work session beginning at 8:30 and concluding in the afternoon that allows us the time needed to have adequate conversation and make informed decisions. But also it allows for the public input, if they so desire, to be a part of it. And I'm asking for dates.
Let me bring up a point that may be an issue. In workshops and in special call meetings, there is no public participation. Only at regular meetings. That's the way the policies read now.
Okay. Now, for work sessions, we could offer it if that's something that the board decides on, but I'll
You
leave
have to
that.
change the policy.
Okay, I'll leave that to the board.
Okay.
For me, I'm just looking for dates.
Okay. And if y'all want to change the policy, that's fine, but that's the way the policy
Madam
reads
Chair,
now.
couldn't we just change the name of what we're doing to give the public the opportunity to join in with us and have input instead of calling it a workshop?
We can't call it a regular meeting because that happens once a month.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
If we don't get some dates.
Yeah. We can work on the policy piece between now and next month. Okay? Does that suit you? No, it doesn't suit you.
No, it don't suit me, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think it would be fairly easy to say we could call it something else other than a workshop, in order to give the
What would you
public-
call it?
It's being called a work session, not a workshop.
It's a work session.
Well, work session is, I mean, it's the
It's not a
same thing
workshop,
as
so that way we're not violating our policy.
Let's look at the policy.
And again, I can just,
So we need to look at the policy, but I'm like Mr. Coachman. Called it a workshop in the past, if that's the way we approached it, but with the terminology work session, maybe that's a legal question, but I'm like Mr. Coachman, I think we're around it, aren't we?
yeah. And I can just tell you
Whatever
from
y'all
my
wanna do.
experiences in the past, having the opportunity to meet for extended periods of time really brings about a different conversation for the public. They have participated in places where I've seen it take place, and again, a more informed public helps us all in our efforts to ensure trust in our community.
Why don't we do this if we could? Decide on a date, and maybe you could check with legal to see if we need to do something different than a work session or a shop or IS terminology.
Right.
And see how that works out.
We could also announce tonight that we're planning, and we don't have to use it, but we can announce that we're starting a policy change, and you announce it a month ahead, and then next month do a first reading.
Possible policy change.
What I said.
Well, all of our sessions are open to the public, which you know, they're open for the public to come in. Shouldn't be a problem, but you're talking about participating in the discussion?
Well, like when people come up to the podium, that by policy, it only
Well, I understand
happens in the regular monthly meeting that happens once a month.
Right.
Ms. Fleming.
Okay, when we had the strategic planning, we had the public, and how would this, I'm just kind of throwing that out because the public was here, public sector, private sector, as well as the staff, and as well as the board. If you were talking about changing a policy, which would take 3 months.
It can be done in less than that. You announce 1 month ahead.
I heard what you said.
And then it's 2 readings.
I heard what you said, but here again, we're quibbling over,
just have it, check with legal, and let's go forward. How about that?
Yeah.
Can I get some dates?
Yeah, we just need to choose dates here.
All right, somebody bring up a date.
All right, let's see.
First, I'd like to ask a
September
question.
28th, no, 29th.
What month?
September. 29th. You want to do it on a week?
28th or 29th?
29th, Saturday.
The question is, what's the minimum time frame that you could present it, Dr. McCord?
Well, to be honest with you, I can't give you, I can tell you what I'd like to do with this session. First, I'd like to employ South Carolina School Boards Association to come in and do a board workshop on boardsmanship, and then we continue with certain topics for discussion. For example, we talk about reconfiguration, we can talk about what the district may look like if we made specific moves. We can look at what it costs to operate buildings. We can talk about the refinement of how we're moving forward with our presentations related to the bond referendum. There are just so many things that we can talk about and discuss. I don't want to confine it, but again, those topics would be predetermined with a meeting, just a casual meeting to determine what topics will we discuss at the board work session.
Okay, so we're not going to have to set an agenda and lay out what we're going to be discussing. We start at 8:30 and we'll work till we get tired or go home?
It would be more than prudent for us to set an agenda so that we know exactly what we're going to discuss. But if we started at 8:30, if you said, okay, we want to be done by 1, then we would set an agenda accordingly. I'm just looking for an opportunity to have more than an hour or 2 to present information items for discussion by the board as a whole.
I think it would be a good idea for us to set a time frame for the first work session.
8:30 to 3.
That works, and then we go from there, I would think, myself.
Let's look at 8:30 to 3.
Great.
I mean, you asked me.
If you don't agree, speak up now, please.
I think a 3-hour initial work session for us to work through things, and then maybe another one, 3 hours a little later, and then if we need a longer one, we can deal with that. But attention spans, if nothing else, or even a preliminary.
I'll take 8 to 12 just to get started.
I might be able to hang with you a little bit there.
Well, how about 6 to 10 or something like that? We got a lot of Saturdays lined up here with a lot of activities
You
going
don't get
on.
nobody on Saturday afternoon.
No, I'm not talking about Saturday. I'm talking about some other night of the week.
All right, so we've got one date.
Saturday.
I think you should go with that.
What's the date?
September the 29th. That's a Saturday.
Okay.
He works on
I mean,
Saturday.
you'll vote on it. You tell me that's the date, then
All right,
that's
y'all
the
want
date.
to vote on it? All right, someone make
What
a
is that,
motion.
Saturday? You're talking about 8 to 3 on the 29th? Well, there's
8 to 12.
8 to 12, okay.
Now, this vote doesn't mean that we'll all be here, right?
Don't need a quorum.
Y'all, we don't need to
That's
take
right.
up all this
Okay.
much time doing this.
No, you don't need to vote on it, set the date.
Yeah.
All right.
Chair, I make a motion that we have our first work session or workshop, whatever you want to call it, on September 29th from 8 to 12.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Let me-
5, 6.
Before we,
Yes.
okay, I know we're looking at, and I agree with you, but they will have probably refreshments. We'll spend 30 minutes having our coffee and fun. And we start the session. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And so
You having coffee and fun?
No, that's what will happen. Then we'll cut it down to 3.5 hours.
No, we're going to have refreshments 7:30 to 8.
Well, then that,
I love it.
regardless of what
We never have refreshments. Don't worry about
if we
it.
start,
Bring your little
do we plan to start
lunch
at 8
bag.
o'clock, or do you want us to convene at 8 o'clock?
I'd like to start, and again, and I understand time restraints for everyone, and believe me, no one has an attention deficit disorder stronger than mine. So I need this time with you as a board to
Then
make
it's
sure that we
I'm fine with
have
that. 8
good
o'clock,
conversations.
8 o'clock, we kick off with the workshop.
We meeting here? Where we meeting at?
We can meet right here.
Right here.
8 o'clock, we kick off there.
Okay.
All right. Did we vote? No. Yeah. All opposed? We voted on the...
It
Who's
passed.
opposed?
It passed.
It passed. No one wants to oppose, okay. All right, superintendent's report. Goal 1, student achievement. Lickety split.
Now, I asked Dr. Harris to come up and present. I do want to say to the board and to the community, this is, in essence, the bulk of what we do. How we go about instructing students and looking at the results of our instruction is what we're here for. I say that because this may take a moment. This information, however, is important. I have instructed Dr. Harris to be as brief as he can. The information will be online, but there are some things that I do not want us to rush through. If we're ever going to move forward and address the concerns that we have that will be shared, again, it's going to take a little bit of time. And so, Dr. Harris, I don't want you to feel pressured, but the clock is ticking.
Thank you.
Three minutes.
Now, it's going to take more
I
than
know.
a few minutes.
He can do it, can't you? You can do it.
Dr. Harris, you may just want to go through the narrative, and then as Jimmy moves the slides back and forth, if there are questions, you can answer those questions.
Good evening, Chairperson.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chairwoman Parsons and members of the Board of Trustees and Dr. McCord, Superintendent. I'm Dr. Harris, Chief Officer for Instructional Services, and we're here to share with you the SC Ready and SC Pass comparisons from this year. You've received some information, and as Dr. McCord has said, I will not go through it slide by slide, but I wanted you to have the actual factual information that refers to the summary I'm going to share with you. Marlboro County students in grades 3 through 8 improved their performance in 3 grades on both statewide assessments according to the 2018 release reports that were released last Tuesday by the South Carolina Department of Education. In 2018 South Carolina Ready testing, Marlboro County students improved their performance over the previous year in 3 of 6 grades tested in mathematics. And actually, as we were sitting there and reflecting on Clio, I actually found a 4th, so that would be actually 4 of 6 grades in mathematics. 3 of 6 grades tested in English language arts, and then in both content areas, the district had 1 grade where the performance was identical in 2018 from 2017. In 2018, South Carolina passed. Marlboro County students' performance on science tests improved in 1 of 3 grade levels tested while holding identical performance in 1 grade, and improved in social studies on both grade levels tested. South Carolina Ready assessments in English language arts and mathematics are designed to measure progress of students in grades 3 through 8, South Carolina's new and more rigorous academic standards and higher expectations. I'll give you in the summary some statements that will pretty much detail all of the graphs and the charts that you have, but then I'll address the question you had earlier tonight. In South Carolina Ready Mathematics, grade 3, 29% of the students met or exceeded state standards compared to 56% average of students meeting it statewide. An additional 31% of district students approached meeting state standards, according to the results. In grade 4, 29% of the students met or exceeded state standards compared to a state average of 48% of students meeting them. There was an additional 26% of district students who were in the approach category. Now, the approach category is actually a category that's emerging, and it's a level which shows that students are not in the lowest quadrant of performance. It shows that students are very near to reaching that MET performance. And with a little intervention and a lot of great instruction, you hopefully want to move those students into the category of MET. So each time you hear me say approach, that shows students that are right below that MET category. In grades 5, 27% of students met or exceeded state standards compared to 45% statewide as a statewide average. And there was an additional 35% of district students who were in the approaching category. In grade 6 in South Carolina Ready Mathematics, 17% students met or exceeded state standards compared to a state average of 43%. There was an additional 34% of district students who were in the approach or meeting state standards. In grade 7, 12% were in the met or exceeding state standards as compared to a ratio of 35% statewide that met or exceeded those standards in grade 7. And then there were 36% of the district students who were in the approaching category. In grade 8, 13% met or exceeded state standards as compared to the state, which had a 37% average in grade 8. And an additional 32% of our students were in the approaching category.
What do you contribute 6, 7, and 8, the percentage going down, sir?
Well, as you notice, we still have ways that we have to improve, but as you notice, the percentage there is down in terms of the earlier grades, but even when you look at the state averages there are down. And what it is that as we move into this new age of college and career readiness, the standards that are being assessed in those grades are very rigorous. And so as we perform instruction throughout the year and we benchmark, we have to move to delivering our instruction and delivering assessments at that rigorous level to meet these standards. The standards have evolved over time. They're not as easy, but as you can see, just as similar with the state, when we got to grades 6, 7, and 8, the averages fell for the state and our averages are there. But we're committed to doing some things to make sure that we work on that, because we want to not only be the best in what we do here in our district, but we want to meet that state average.
I'm just
Ms.
looking at,
Fleming.
thank you. On the first one, just go, I'm just kind of, I added up the figures, and at the approach, we would still be at 60%, and then the state average is 56%, but that still is, we maybe, with the state only doing 56%, that's not fantastic, is it?
No, ma'am.
And so we're trying to catch up with the state, but if we got the 56%, we still would not. There's work to be done. I got you.
Yes, ma'am.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to interrupt your flow, but I remember several years ago talking with a math teacher, and I'm not going to identify him, but he was consistently scoring, his students were scoring way up there, and he had one thing in particular, because I asked him, what are you doing? Because your scores are way up there. And he said he drilled the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division tables. Bam, 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 bam. You know, not thinking, oh, you know, whatever, but bam, 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 that they just could fly through them. And that was the basis of getting his scores up there. Have we looked, or not we, have you all looked at teachers who have high scores and asked them, what do you do to be successful with your students? And emulate it. Has anybody done that?
Yes, ma'am. When we go through and disaggregate data, when we take benchmarks, we actually do it by school and by teacher. And one of the things that we are looking at, and I'll explain a little bit later when we go into interventions, is about allowing our teachers to have some collaborative time where they share with each other. We don't offer any excuses from where we are, because we know we have to improve. One of the challenges we all know we have is because we have so many schools, as was discussed earlier, and we have not really consolidated our students to lesser buildings. We have a lot of teachers that are in grades where they're either the only teacher in that grade or one of two. I always subscribe by saying that, you know, more heads together working on a decision, just like Dr. McCord asked for your work session, is stronger than one. And so one of the big things is we identify and we're trying to prepare opportunities for PLCs where teachers can share with each other. And so that's one of the things that I'll explain when we get to the interventions page.
Mr. Coachman has a question.
Yes, the pass-ready test that they're taking now, how long have we been taking? Is this relatively a new test for our children?
One of the tests is just changed standards. We've been taking these tests. One was instituted about 2 or 3 years ago, and it moved away from another test, and that's one of the challenges we have. As we say,
the challenge is basically a new test.
Yes, we've had some new tests, and we're not, as I'll say again, we're not going to make any excuses. We are bound by the same challenges that everyone has. We just have to work with them. But oftentimes when we've shown a lot of growth, like let's say on the PACT in the past and HSAP, at those times we had spent enough time with those tests for teachers to get comfortable. Right now we're sharing how to teach our teachers to deal with this test, and to go to your statement, Mrs. Parsons. One of the things with math that many of you mentioned is that math has moved away from just concrete items. Now students have to be very fluid in literacy to be able to accomplish the items, because there's a lot of literacy involved with the math portion of the test. And so as we work with Read to Succeed and balanced literacy with our students, we're working with our teachers. It's a new requirement in terms of teachers getting their recertification, that they have to have some adjustment and some notation of our Read to Succeed documentation onto their certificate to be able to share that as we move through with students. So it's just an evolving test, but we're going to continue to work at it.
Let me also add, too, if I can, one of the things that we have looked at for this year, and of course this is in concert with the principals, is finding and defining what programs are working for us. As you see and noted, there has been growth, although the growth does not put us at a place where we are at state levels, which, by the way, are not, as you said a moment ago, equally impressive. However, we are focusing on just a few specific items and pouring in resources and professional developments for our staff as a whole. I think, again, as I mentioned, this is in concert with the principals. The principals have assessed the data. They've looked at the strengths and the weaknesses of their teams of teachers, and we have plans in place to help us help our teachers teach to a higher standard. Another area that I think we're going to be able to make strides with is as it relates to teacher turnover. It's hard to build a culture that will push and promote any agenda for educational achievement if we're constantly having turnover in our buildings. We have a young core group of principals who are seated out in the audience tonight. But what I've found is that we have some very dedicated staff members here in Marlboro County School District that work for us as teachers. They want to learn best practices. They're ready to implement best practices. We've narrowed the scope down so that we can address these specific concerns, and I feel pretty comfortable that we're going to move forward with our goal of helping our students reach the maximum levels of achievement.
Okay, as I move forward in our SC Ready English Language Arts, in grade 3, we had 20% of our students meet or exceed standards as compared to the state average of 45%. We had an additional 34% that are approaching meeting standards. And just on that one indicator for you, Ms. Fleming, if we were, as you see, if we took and made sure that in the coming years we worked to a level where those approaching students met standards, we moved them that next level, we would have exceeded the state average. So
I'm looking at that in terms of how close they are, and it looks like on the ready and mathematics we were exceeding the state standards if we added that in at least on 4 or 5 levels. 60%, 55%, 62, 51, 48, and 47. It actually beats all of the state averages, but that's approaching added to that.
Right, that's approaching.
So we see the work that we have to do, and we see where we are. In grade 4, we had 22% of our students meet or exceed standards as compared to the state average of 44%, with 26% approaching. In grades 5, we had 20% meet or exceed standards as compared to 39% average for statewide, and we had 37% of the district students approaching or meeting standards or in the approaching category. In grade 6, we had 20% of our students that were in the meets or exceed standards as compared to a state average of 40%, and we had an additional 40% of district students in the approaching category. In grade 7, we had 24% of students that met or exceeded standards as compared to the state average of 40%. We had an additional 40% of district students in the approaching category. And then in grade 8, we had 19% of our students in ELA meet or exceed standards as compared to a statewide average of 39%. And we had an additional 33% in the approaching category. SC pass results were reported for 3 grades in science and 2 grades in social studies. In grade 4, in science, 26% of our students met or exceeded standards as compared to the state average of 50%, with 23% of our district students in the approaching category. In grade 6, 24% of our students met or exceeded standards as compared to 48% as an average for statewide students, and we had 24% of students from Marlboro County that were in the approaching category. And then in grade 8, we had 28% of our students in the meets or exceed standards as compared to a state average of 49%, but we had 28% in the approaching category. In the SC Pass social studies, we had 47% of our students meet or exceed state standards as compared to a state average of 70%. And then again in grade 7 in social studies, we had 47% of our students meet or exceed state standards as compared to 66% statewide. Before I go to the interventions, I do want to share one thing that you brought up earlier tonight. If you go over to, as you know, you have front and back copies, so yours is not as thick. If you will go over to page 4 on the graph, where you'll see it says BIS, SC Ready, ELA, and then I think once you flip that page over, you will see Marlboro Intermediate, SC Ready Math. And the reason I point out that was you had a question earlier tonight about Clio and the 5th graders over at Clio. As you can see, in both of those areas, there was a tremendous gain in achievement for the 5th graders that attended over at Clio. So in terms of climate, Ms. Hewitt and Singletary's leadership, also Ms. Kane, who has them on her campus. I don't know what variant factor you were looking for, but in both of those areas, you can see the improvement in achievement from 2017 to 2018 for the 5th graders at BIF.
Thank you. And that was a question I think that you asked, Mr. Branch. So you see there is notable improvement in the students that were placed at Clio. So there was no detriment to the students, I think is the most important thing. We'll let you...
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Driggers.
Now,
Go ahead.
The
Yes, sir.
teachers from BIS, which were the 5th grade teachers, they accompanied students to Clio.
yes, they did.
So the teachers were basically the same teachers. It was just a different school, different atmosphere, or whatever in Clio.
Yes.
In a smaller environment, that could have made some difference.
How was it a smaller environment?
Yeah, less students, I mean.
Not for the 5th grade, but they were the same size.
For the school in general.
Oh, the school in general, okay.
I think what they were saying was that having the larger group together makes a more vital, energized learning environment. Am I misunderstanding that, or?
Well, let me say this before we get too far on. We can use this as baseline data and compare it against this year. We can't compare it against anything right now. So it would kind of be a guessing game to say this is the reason, this is the reason. So
Well, I'm all for improvement. I was just trying to figure it out, but I'm all
Now,
for
if you,
improvement.
as I've shared many of the graphs, and I know most of you have gone through and looked at them. So in the interest of time, I'm asking that you move to where we have the two slides toward the end that say SE Pass and SE Ready Intervention and Next Steps. And when you go to those slides, this is where we talk about strategies for continued, expanded, and increased performance on state assessments. And these are the things that we either have going on or will have going on in order to close the achievement gap. Because before I go into these interventions, one of the things we want to reiterate, as you see, there are many areas where we fall behind the state average. We have an avenue to get to the state average, as you've seen in the approaching category for our students, but we right now presently fall behind the state average. Though we're showing growth, which shows that we're doing things that are making a difference, we have to continue to work twice as hard to close that achievement gap if we're going to move up and be around that state average, and that's always going to be our aim, is to either meet or exceed that state average. So with that in mind, some of the things that we will be implementing, or we already have implemented, will be continuous. We will provide grade band opportunities for professional collaboration and staff development, which I mentioned earlier when we talk about math teachers being able to collaborate with teachers who are performing well, and all teachers in all subjects. We will continue to implement and review our pacing and curriculum guides to aid academic rigor. We will provide benchmarks and data to progress monitor student achievement during the year. We will provide focused intervention utilizing proven interventions to include our Imagine Learning for our early literacy with our K through 2, our TE21 benchmarks, and our grades 3 through 8, and our end of course classes at the high school. and frequent classroom observations to improve instruction. We will continue to explore avenues and techniques for recruiting and retaining highly qualified teachers. We'll continue to utilize and or implement with fidelity the principles of advanced ed, high schools that work, making middle grades work, capturing kids' heart, time to teach, family and early literacy activities to improve student achievement. Because it takes a whole child and a whole focus and culture to improve academic achievement. If children were computers, we could just plug it into them. But we have to, as Dr. McCord, I think it stated at our back to school rally, but I know he stated to us in meetings, we have to think about that child when they come from home, how they feel when they're at school, and what they feel like when they're learning. We will provide innovative staff development where we will bring in the top specialists in their field to our Marlboro County to ensure that a larger group of teachers get firsthand access to high-level training on various intervention tools that we utilize in the district. And this is something new, this is a direction new that Dr. McCord has brought, is that instead of always sending maybe 2 or 3 teachers away and spending a lot of money on planes and rooms and stuff, that we save that money and bring that expert here so they can touch more of our teachers. We most recently had a Read 180 Systems 44 training this past Saturday. We had 26 teachers come in, and they came in and they spent all day working on intervention strategies that we will use in our priority schools. We are hosting in the future in October a boot camp for Mastery Connect software, and this will aid our teachers in providing those rigorous assessments we talked about. Mastery Connect is a device that allows teachers to have access to a test item bank where they are able to access and provide quiz items, test items, benchmarks at the rigor that the state offers it. And that's very important because oftentimes we have teachers that mean well, but in times they make tests with their heart instead of what may be the top rigor. And so in utilizing this and learning how to use this apparatus very well, our teachers will be able to culture our kids into higher rigor as they are assessed throughout the year. So therefore, they're adequately prepared when we take our high stakes assessment. And then finally, we will continue to highlight the values of #345 as we strive to maximize, create, and strengthen and develop relationships that provide a safe atmosphere for learning in order to have a positive impact on student achievement.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good information.
All right. Marlboro County School District Character Education Program.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. I thought we were going to have a question or two, but okay.
We don't have time to have questions tonight. We still got a lot to do.
Yeah, we do. I will ask Ms. Gregg if she will come forward. Again, just trying to find ways that we can create opportunities to show success in our students. I made mention earlier that as I visit schools, I do see a lot of dedicated educators employed here in Marlboro County School District. But one of the things that I see more than anything else is we have a great group of students here in our schools. Very respectful, very mannerable, very much aware of what the expectations might be of adults. Now, does that mean they act in that way at all times? Probably not. And by the way, we probably did not either. I also would like to mention that everyone, although we would expect and want for them to be A students for the purpose of being recognized and furthering their school experience, everyone won't be an A student. So we have to find and create avenues that we can recognize students for being virtuous in their everyday demeanor. And in talking with Ms. Gregg and the school counselors, we have come up with something that I think will help us put the focus back on education and kids at our board meetings, as well as give us a chance to make sure that we are pushing and promoting values and virtues that we believe will make for successful individuals. And so, Ms. Gregg, I'll ask if you would talk to us a little bit about the Character Education Program.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Dr. McCord.
I stand before you this evening to talk about the district-wide character education program. And by implementing this character education plan, we'll be integrating good character into the school community to develop students socially, emotionally, and ethically. And research shows that an effective character education program increases 3 areas: self-esteem, it promotes alternative thinking, and positive social behavior, and all of which this program is designed to do. Now, each school counselor will carry this out through classroom guidance lessons, also by displaying our character education word of the month, as well as maybe a sub-word. In addition, we want to celebrate these students for displaying good character, just as we do for academics and athletics. Each school will be responsible for selecting their character student of the month from grades 1 through 6 and 7 through 12. And this will be done on a monthly basis. Also, these students will be recognized at the next month's board meeting during the public session. And even though we already recognize students for exhibiting good character, we wanted to take it up a notch. We wanted to make sure that we recognize them publicly. And in your packet, you'll find that on pages 9 and 10, the criteria for becoming a character student of the month. And I truly believe that if you give a man a fish, he will eat for a day. But teach a man to fish, and he will eat forever. Wow. That is what our district character education program will do for the students in our district, by the 3 dimensions found in our American School Counselor Association's national model: learning to learn, learning to live, and learning to work. Thank you.
Now,
We're happy about that.
and I do thank you, and I think it's fitting that you mentioned the fish, because again, one of the things that Ms. Gregg did not mention, this causes us as adults to seek out young people and acknowledge them for doing those things that we want them to do. Too many times we acknowledge students for poor behavior without ever acknowledging students for behavior. And I'll just give a quick testimony. I was at the high school, and there were many people walking out the door for a particular reason, and they were kind of pushing, and a young man moved to the side and held the door for everyone to go through. And he didn't look the part of a student that would do such a thing. No one took a moment to say thank you. And when it was my turn to walk through the door, I put my hand on the shoulder and I said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I appreciate you having good manners." And his face lit up. Every time I'm at the school now, if I'm in the cafeteria with Mr. Farr, if I'm walking the hallways, that student walks up, shakes my hand, says hello, and he's beaming from ear to ear. We all want to be acknowledged for doing the right thing. Very rarely do we take the time to acknowledge young people for doing the right thing, and this is something that I'm happy that Ms. Gregg is pushing forward. And by the way, these character education words will be throughout the district, and we hope to get them throughout the community. So the churches will use these words, corporate and local businesses will use and share these words so that we can recognize students, but most importantly, look to recognize these students each and every time we see them doing something virtuous. So thank you.
Thank you.
Would this be per school, or would this be just one per district? I'm trying to read to see. I saw it yet. Every school have a character?
Right, each school from grades 1 to 6 and then 7 to 12. Yes, monthly.
Every school.
This is a great program, and then there's some in the community workers, maybe they could put that word up, acceptance on your, and have it go. I think it's great.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's awesome what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I just know who are you and what's your position.
I'm sorry, my name is Letha Gregg. I'm a school counselor.
Okay. Blame me for not knowing, but you're doing an awesome job. I appreciate this program. Thank you for it.
Thank you.
And
just want to know who you are.
Blame me for not introducing you properly. I'm the newcomer, so I just assumed that everyone knows Miss Gregg, but she is our lead counselor in the district.
Yeah, I've seen her plenty of times before. I just didn't know what her role was.
Hard worker.
She got that beaming smile on all the time. Like,
She's been building character for years.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. 6th through 8th grade Chrome notebook rollout.
You have it for me? I'm not going to go to the front. I will say that one of the first things we wanted to do is identify areas that we could show remarkably fast improvement in how we're trying to deliver instruction. Not having one-to-one technology limits our students and their abilities and capabilities to continue work outside of school. By one-to-one, I mean notebooks that students can take home. And by the way, this is being done not just here in South Carolina, but across the country. I'm trying to catch us up 2 times. We have put a plan in place that's aggressive, to say the least. This year, in 2 weeks, we're going to begin the issuance of Chrome notebooks for students in grades 6 through 8 to use not just at school, but at home also. Now, before we set about this endeavor, we surveyed parents to find out, 1, if they would support such an initiative, 2, if they currently have internet accessibility at home, and then 3, if they would be willing to pay a $20, and the $20 is not going to cover the cost of the device, but just a little skin in the game to help ensure that there's going to be safekeeping for these devices. By all accords, the response from the parents was overwhelming. I can tell you in my conversations with students at the middle schools, when asked, will you protect this device? Yes. Would this help you in your efforts at home? Yes. Is this something that you're looking forward to? The answer again is yes, 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 and yes. So we're excited about this opportunity. Again, it'll be in grades 6 through 8 across the district. I've already spoken with West Park as well as Ms. Blue to see if we could allocate funds that will allow us to, in second semester, also issue devices to grades 9, 10, and 11. Not 9 through 12, but 9, 10, and 11. 12th grade next semester, hey, we want you across the stage. If you haven't made it by then, you know, we've got some other concerns. Next year, it will be across the district in grades 6 through 12, and then we will put a plan in place to bring up grades 3, 4, and 5. So again, we have a plan in place that includes dates, when the surveys were issued, as well as when the rollout will occur for the one-to-one devices. We also have a handbook, and this information will be online on our website for parents to view and review. We think it's going to be of our best interest to teach social media responsibility, the perils of cyberbullying, I guess for lack of a better word, to destroying of your worth by inappropriate use of devices. And what I mean by that is, you see many times young people will do and say things and post it on social media that has repercussions and ramifications that far exceed present day. So we're going to teach these things before we give the devices. And all we ask is that the community, that you support us in our efforts to make sure that students are using the devices in a proper way, so that we don't have to resort to consequences as outlined in our handbook, which would include taking those devices back. And so our Parents' Day is on the 22nd of September. We're rolling out devices on the 24th of September, grades 6 through 8. And that's just for information.
All right. Goal number 2, highly qualified teachers.
No questions on that one?
We don't have time for questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but we're at 3 hours now.
I got a question.
I'm just...
What is
Internet services available for all these kids? Internet service?
Well, to be honest, I don't...
Yes, they don't.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
I don't have a specific answer for that, other than parents did indicate that they did have web service. Many phone devices have hotspots on the phones.
Yeah, and you can run it off the hotspot.
Right, and as we continue, if we need to, then we can purchase portable hotspots. And then all of the devices will have our filtering services that will keep kids off of sites that are considered to be inappropriate as best possible.
How many students would this involve?
6 through 8, what's the total number? Okay.
1,300.
And each device with a bag and an extra charge, it costs us about $370 to move forward, somewhere in that area.
Okay. Money well spent.
You have information? Oh, okay. Goal 2, highly qualified teachers and administrators. 2018-19 Marlboro County School District student enrollment data, first 10 days, and vacancies.
Okay, and
you lump it all together.
I can lump it together, and again, I do know.
I'm not meaning to push you while I push you, but we're gonna be here 5 hours if we don't.
And I understand that, and I respectfully say I'm just getting started. And so,
no, you are. That's why I'm pushing.
I'm excited to give information, so I pardon.
That's okay.
I ask for pardon in trying to give the information because I don't want to overlook or misstate or not inform. But our 10-day information in comparison to the 135-day count from 2017-2018, where 3,817 students were on the docket as being students for Marlboro County School District. After 10 days of this current school year, 2018-2019, we have 3,941 for an enrollment increase of 124 or 3.2%. However, it is noted, bless you, it is noted that we had a 7% decrease in the number of students that are at the high school. So we do have some students that have been added to the roll of Marlboro County School District, and I believe that that number reflects those students that are coming to us from pre-K enrollment.
Okay.
Also in your packets, you have a breakdown for the total number of students at each school and what. Okay.
Thank you. My cough syrup wore out about 15 minutes ago. Oh, well.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
Okay.
I do have a breakdown for. I do have a breakdown for each school and what each school's total enrollment is for this particular school year versus what it was for last year. In your packet, I also have the average class size per grade level.
What's the difference between Wallace from last year and this year? I'm just curious to know. Is it an increase or decrease?
Wallace last year on the 135th day had 438, and this year they have 481.
So we about 50-something students more this year.
Yes, sir. And I apologize. I think earlier when asked, I thought the enrollment was down, but that was based on being told that there were 500 students at the school.
You're doing mighty, doing good up there.
All right, goal 3, fiscal responsibility. Healthy, Hungry, Free Kids Act.
Hungry, healthy.
Yeah, hungry, healthy kids, yeah.
Can we summarize?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. McCord, will pass on that first item. That'll be in next month's report.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're making up some time.
And we've got Medicaid claiming for nursing services. We're going to
Very
do
good.
well. We're going to plan on that.
Pass on that too.
I'll just give you a very brief update.
Okay.
We are going to begin billing for Medicaid services for nursing, and the district has a master agreement with Frontline Technologies, who has a strategic partnership with Professional Software for Nurses, which is exclusive healthcare records management provider for Frontline. The software and training costs will be about a little over $9,000. The district will provide laptops and training for nurses as well. Frontline will do the billing, and they'll charge us 7% annually. All the costs associated with the setup, training, and technology will be paid from the Medicaid billing proceeds, it's anticipated the district will generate about $100,000 billing for nursing services.
And they'll take their fee out of that, right?
Correct.
7%?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let me just note, Frontline would be the agent for SNAP. SNAP actually has the nursing billing services
Yeah.
Yes,
that
sir.
will be provided to the district.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the purpose of this is so that we can recoup monies that would be due to the district by way of Medicaid billing for the services provided, currently being provided by our nurses on a daily basis.
Okay. State fund, SRO state funding?
Pleased to announce we have been awarded a school resource officer, and I've attached a communication from Sabrina Moore, Director of Student Intervention Services with South Carolina Department of Education. The application was submitted August 17th, 2018. Marlboro County, along with 37 other districts, was awarded one school resource officer. The payment for the school resource officer will be submitted directly to the law enforcement agency to hire and pay for one officer. I'll work through the logistics with the Department of Ed, and will provide additional information required as a result of the award.
Where we gonna put them at?
One quick question, because we've had several different people, the city, the county, Clyde.
Correct.
And we've got different prices from everybody. So.
And we provided that information to the Department of Ed. This is for a new school resource officer. This is not, we cannot supplant with these funds. So it's anticipated that this will be one that's outside the budget.
How do we give him the price and what it's going to cost?
We provided information for the city of Bennettsville as well as the town of Clio. Okay. And those are the only two law enforcement agencies that were able to provide an additional school resource officer. Because of course the county is already providing us one at Blenheim, one at Wallace, and then of course the town of McCall's already providing an officer there. City of Bennettsville has got two officers providing for the high school, and then of course Clio, one officer. So.
And where would the new officer go at?
That'll be one of the logistics that I'll work through with Dr. McCord as well as the Department of Ed, because we did provide information for both City of Bennettsville as well as the town of Clio.
Right, and to be honest with you, that will be determined based on the availability of an officer. Of course, without having SROs properly trained and certified to be SROs, one of the agencies will have to find an officer or hire an officer and have that person trained. So we don't know what that total cost is, because that's going to include full freight, but we are comforted in knowing that that freight will be picked up by the State Department.
Mr. Park, you're saying that you mentioned all these municipalities and the Sheriff's Department provided this officer. Did we not put a large sum of $360,000 in our budget?
That is already in the budget to cover the existing.
I know that is, but what has they, you're telling us that they provided as well as we provided?
The Department of Education will provide us with an additional school resource officer.
I understand that we've already put in $360,000 for resource officers. We're going to get this other money, which will pay for one officer, and we will still have to pay that. But you're saying, I mean, if I maybe misheard you, that the county and these municipalities has given an officer.
Well, we are contracting with the county and the municipalities already for various officers
so
at schools.
So we are paying them, right? So
we are.
We're buying an officer from the county or from the municipalities?
No.
We're contracting with them. And the grant from the Department of Ed.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the budget item that we're talking about. Now, the $360,000 for resource officers, how many would that pay for?
That is paying for, let's see, 2, 4, I think it's,
That's
would
for
be
all of
fixed.
the current resource officers that we have working in the district now, which I
And how many
believe,
is that?
I believe that is 6.
6.
So the $360,000 would not pay their salaries completely?
It does pay their salaries as well as other costs.
This is in addition to.
I understand that. So I just wanted to make it clear that their money was taken from the school district budget. We decided that we were going to spend school district money, $360,000 for resource officers. We, the school district, is paying that.
Correct.
That is right.
And we are buying that service from Clio, the county, Marlboro County.
Contracting that service.
Contracting that service.
Yes, ma'am. Now, what the state has offered to do is bring on an additional resource officer at no cost.
For 1 year?
Is that 1 year, that ongoing?
Well, that hasn't yet to be determined. That just depends on the legislature. Right now, we're going to take it and run with it.
ESS implementation.
Okay. The district has implemented the employee self-service module provided by Smart Fusion, our district's financial and operations software. Employees can access ESS through the district's website and view earnings, deductions, and payroll check details, as well as viewing the district's costs for their benefit. Employees will be able to make changes to their tax withholding and direct deposit information. Employees will also have access to W-2s once they're posted. With the upcoming payroll on the 14th, all employees will be direct deposit and will be able to view their check notification through ESS. The automation of this process will save the district time and resources, as well as giving employees access from any electronic device.
District financial monthly report.
You have the report before you as of September 6, 2018. I don't know if there's any questions. I'd be glad to address those.
Any questions? Moving right along. Thank you, Mr.
Very good.
Forrest. All right, goal number 4, policy development and implementation. Let me explain before we start this how a policy is changed. You have an announcement at the beginning of the process that a policy is going to be changed. And then a month later, you have 2 readings of, this has to be readings in consecutive meetings. You can't do it and have a few meetings and then do it again. It's consecutive meetings. And we don't need a vote on this. We just need to announce that these things are happening. Also, there needed to be another word added on the first one, and it is prohibiting use of public money for personal use. Then the next one is an update of employment poster. Revision to board policies IKA-R. What is that related to?
That's related to the 10-point scale for academics achievement.
Okay. Policy revision, or revision of policy AC, which is non-discrimination / equal, what?
Equal employment. And I can just help you with that. 6 of these policies that you're being asked to review. Recently we attended the school board's law conference in Myrtle Beach, and we were informed that 6 of the policies that we currently have on the books are outdated across the state. This information comes directly from the School Boards Association, has been approved and adopted as policy, and the recommendation is that we follow suit and do the same here with the district as it relates to employment matters.
And the next one is revision of policy GBA, open hiring / equal employment opportunity and affirmative action.
All of these are related to employment.
Yeah, so I don't need to read. Well, actually, I am supposed to announce them. Revision of policy GCE, professional staff recruitment. Revision of policy GCEC, posting and advertising of professional vacancies. Revision of policy GCF, professional staff hiring. And revision of policy GDF, support staff hiring. So those have all been announced. Goal 5, supervision and evaluation of the superintendent. board business action, use of facilities request by NETC, and we have a vote needed.
Yes, NETC has requested the use of Marlboro County High School, several classrooms to conduct even classes. We, of course, could grant them that opportunity to work in concert with the high school principal. However, I don't have the authority to waive certain fees, custodial fees, as well as a basic tenant fee. And the board, by policy, would have to waive that.
All right.
It'd be a good time to talk with them about the culinary program. That's why.
Would you like to make a motion?
Well, I'm not sure we're ready to do that, are we?
I don't think, well, they're our kids that they're going to be.
There's a combination of our kids as well as folks in the community, but they're after school hours. I believe, how many classrooms is it? One class? Okay, I thought it was 4, but just one class? Okay, that number's gone down, it's just one class.
We approve NETC use of our one classroom.
There's a second.
Well, I think
All right, all in favor? Is there any discussion?
I think we were looking at the issue of waiving fees, is that correct, or just using the room? Well,
Waiving the custodial fee and the basic tenant fee.
could I amend your motion to say we allow them to have that classroom and waive those fees, the custodial fee and the, if you think that's the thing we should do, is that what you're suggesting?
Definitely.
Okay, all right.
So is that an amendment that you want to make? Or
I can do it, or we can make it
Is there a second to the
Let
amendment?
me change the motion.
Okay, that'd be more comprehensive.
I make a motion that we grant NETC's request to use our classroom with waiving of all fees.
Any
Second.
discussion?
Oh, did you already second it?
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion's carried unanimously.
I
Good deal.
am not.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I saw your hand go up. All opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, Ms. Fleming is opposed. The motion's carried.
And we were talking about one classroom after school. Okay.
Avid elective course renewal. Explain that.
Dr. Harris is going to.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hold on just a minute. We did not vote on these board policy changes, did we?
We don't have to vote this time.
Okay, it says vote needed, but we don't have to vote
I
this
scratched
time.
out
Is
that. It
right?
didn't need to be
The
put in
vote
there.
will come.
Okay.
There'll be
I do
two
want to
readings.
question the change from 61% to 51%, because that is really an F. I'll bring that up with you before the next meeting.
60 what?
61 to 51 on the kids. I'll show it to you. Never mind.
We
I
don't
a-
have to say what the change is or what the policy change is. It's just that we're handling that topic in a month. So that,
Right,
you know, okay?
Good.
All right.
Or at the work session.
Well, actually, we do have to vote at a meeting. You can't vote at a workshop or.
You can take action.
I'll talk about that later on.
Okay.
We can do that.
Go, please.
Okay.
Hey, Madam Chair,
right.
Woman and the Board of Trustees and Superintendent Dr. McCord. The Instructional Services Division brings for the board a request to reapprove Avid elective class at Marlboro County High School as a local course for the 2018 and 2019 school year. The Avid course is the
It's an elective class.
It's an elective class, a special program working with kids to help them become college and career ready and make sure that they have the appropriate background to perform it at a high level once they move on to that point. You approved this as a local course last year, and we recently been alerted that every year we have to bring our locally approved elective courses back before the board. So in your
Madam
board
Chairman,
packet,
excuse
you
me.
have, yes.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the addition of the Avid elective class.
I second.
All in favor, raise your
year.
right hand. Motion's carried unanimously. Mr. Coachman?
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
That we adjourn this long meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Woo, we lived through it. Okay, here we go.